call the meeting to order. Good afternoon, distinguished colleagues. We are back again today for the second module in this 8-module teacher development course. We are going to be talking about pedagogy and blended learning in practice today. But before we go on, shall we look back? Last week, we spoke about how we learn, the theories of how we learn. Can anyone hear me?
Yes, Prof. Go ahead.
Yes, we can.
Hear you.
Yes, Prof. We can hear you clearly, sir. We can hear you clearly,
okay.
Sir. Yes, sir.
The fellow here was telling me they can't hear me, and therefore I was apprehensive. Last week we spoke about how we learn, the theories of learning, and the practice of learning. We spoke about the 3 major theories of learning: behaviorism, cognitivism, and social constructivism. We did say that all of these theories, but the dominant theory today in Nigeria, higher education, is the behaviorist, whether we like it or not. There are pockets, blended theories of learning, like we do here in FUTA. And I'm not talking about FUTA as a whole. I'm talking about us, general studies in FUTA. It is possible to blend all the 3 theories because each one has something to contribute. And these are the things we spoke about last week. Moving on to pedagogy and blended learning in practice. In other words, how pedagogy and blended learning come together to inform our practice. How we can transform our courses from the behaviorist, teacher-fronted, teacher as oracle classroom to a blended one, to a flipped one, where we employ socio-constructivism, socio-cultural learning theories as the mainstay of our practice. And in this wise, we are now bringing in technology, particularly digital technologies, to assist us in meeting some of the deficiencies and deficits of the behaviorist classroom that we are used to, that we have set up over the decades, that we were brought into, so that now we can begin to move forward into the 21st century. So what are we going to be looking at today? Basically, we're going to be looking at what pedagogy is, what blended learning is, and how we can practice this, how we can blend, how we can reform our curricula in order to be able to blend and have a new classroom setup, making use of several learning spaces, not just the classroom, using several other spaces, creating innovative spaces that will enable our learners to come along with us, to learn the knowledge, to have the skills, and to put all of this together so that they can co-construct knowledge for the 21st century, for the fourth industrial revolution. Because until we do this, we are not preparing our learners for the future. We are preparing them for the Infinite Note 3, you are disturbing this meeting. Hello? Now, my now, what is pedagogy? Merriam-Webster defines it as the art, the science, or profession of teaching, especially in education. TES Editorial, a group of practitioners in teaching that have an editorial board, pedagogy simply as the method and practice of teaching. It encompasses teaching styles, teaching theory, feedback, and assessment. From all of my readings, I have defined pedagogy simply as a philosophy underpinning teaching and learning methods. Here, the philosophy is important. Every learning must have an undergirding you want to use. Is your practice leverage everything around us to ensure that our learners come up to speed. They are the principles that determine your approach, the learning outcomes, the materials we choose, and assessment. We are back to the theories we looked at last week. And these are behaviorism, as I said earlier on, cognitivism, social constructivism. But I've again atomized the essence of each of these here. For behaviorism, we are talking about imitation, repetition, memorization, controlled drilling, reinforcement. For cognitivism, those of us in language, we are familiar with Chomsky's language acquisition device. And every learning begins with language acquisition anyway, because it is with language that we learn our culture. It is the foundation of all our learning. Cognitivism tells us that everybody is born with a creative mental potential, the potential that enables us to learn whatever we want to learn, to acquire the skills that we want to acquire as members of a social community. It recognizes motivation as a means to acquiring anything we want to acquire. It recognizes imagination as a way to building new knowledge. And of course, we come to social constructivism, which is basically sociocultural learning. And there are 4 major planks to this. If a child was born today and was thrown into the forest and taken care of by baboons, that child would learn how baboons live, will behave like a baboon, because the interaction the child has had is with the culture of baboons. That child will not behave like a human being because it has not interacted with a human being. And in the process of social interaction, we are helped along by the more knowledgeable other, our mother, our father, our brothers, sisters, aunties, uncles. The whole community brings up that child, and they are the more knowledgeable other. Until we get into school and we bring in our teachers, we bring in our peers, some of them who are better than us and who help us along. They are the more knowledgeable other. And we describe what each individual can do on their own as a zone. And they live within that zone until the more knowledgeable other brings them up to speed to new levels of understanding, new levels of consciousness, new levels of skills, and therefore we then move on within that zone of proximal development to a new level. And individuals then go on to begin to construct on their own, using their imagination, using the motivation of within society to move higher and higher. And we then consolidate this within the community of practice. We are creating a community of practice even as we are here today. We're all teachers in higher education. We are leveraging each other's experience, knowledge, skills to develop, to come to a new level. And we'll be creating a new environment of learning for our students. So these are the theories. And I continue to say that in our system, all of the 3 theories may become useful at one point or the other. There will be occasions where our kids, especially if you are teaching 100-level students, will use imitation, will memorize principles, scientific principles, philosophical principles, and by repetition, they internalize these principles. All of these, when we learned to drive, is a way of learning under behaviorism, control drilling. Turn your steering this way, change your gear this way. By repeating that act, you become an expert in driving. So there are psychomotor skills that we learn using behaviorist approaches. Cognitive, of course. Once we recognize that everybody has this potential to learn anything, and they also are imbued with a creative potential for a higher mental status, then we encourage them to go on. We motivate them to go on, to use their imagination to lift their knowledge level, to use their skills. But within social constructivist approach, all of this come together through our social interaction. Is anyone familiar with this site? Have we ever been in a situation where our students are sitting this way in an auditorium and we have to talk to them, we have to lecture them for an hour or two? And when this happens, what do we do? If the lecture theater does not have a public address system, we shout ourselves hoarse. Still, many of the students at the back of the auditorium don't hear a word we are saying. After an hour, we begin to cough. We begin to look around for water to soothe our throats. Meanwhile, the students still can hear us. They become restless. They become to shout. They raise the noise level in an auditorium where most students can no longer hear us. So what does this mean for us? Must we continue this way? Institutions in Nigeria are witnessing dwindling resources daily. The management tells us there is no money. We need this, there is no money. We need that, there is no money. And therefore, we need a new approach. And the approach we are recommending now is that of blended learning, where we blend the face-to-face classroom and online learning and bring both together to get what we call blended learning. Most definitions of blended learning, also called hybrid learning, refer to a mix of face-to-face and the use of technology. But there are definitions also other things that we can bring together to have blended learning. But the most prominent, the most acceptable definition of blended learning or hybrid learning today is that of face-to-face and use of technology. So, blended learning focuses on optimizing achievement of learning objectives by applying the right learning technologies to match the right personal learning style, to transfer the right skills to the right person at the right time. That's the definition given by Singh, 2001, on page 2. So we are not going to have a unified definition of blended learning beyond that it combines both face-to-face learning and the use of technology. All manner of technologies anyway. So this is what we are talking about. And in blended learning, a blend is like a glass of smoothie. As I look at that picture, I remember what is waiting for me at home this afternoon, because I have this almost every day. But then look at the picture below. The outcome desired determines the composition of the ingredients. At the extreme right, that looks very much like a blend of cucumber. And you can see all of these. Each one has its uses. You can have all of these blended together in one, but you can have them as standalone smoothie. So the blend is like a glass of smoothie, but the outcome desired will determine the composition of the ingredients. The ingredients are in the top picture. What would you like to mix together, to blend together, to get your blended learning? These are some of the things of blended learning. You can see in the picture on the right that the smoothie maker, you can put any choice in that blender and mix them all together, like face-to-face learning, connected learning, online learning, global connections and sources, project-based learning, whatever you want, in whatever quantity, in whatever mixture, is what gives you blended learning. But remember, as we are going to see later, that what you want at the end of the day will determine what you bring together to blend. But why do we blend? Why? The international context of blended learning has listed about 6 pedagogical richness, because you can mix your pedagogy as a matter of fact, as I said earlier on. Access to knowledge, that is existing knowledge, wherever they may be. But if you don't rely on technology, then the amount of knowledge out there that you have access to is also going to be limited. But digital technology today has given us access to all the body of knowledge available in the world, even though you have to pay for some of the access. Social interaction, it enables it. Personal agency, that is learner autonomy, that learner can determine when I want to learn this, how far I want to go, how quickly I want to go. Even while in a mixed classroom, you have different levels of motivation of the students, different levels of achievement, different levels of competencies. But a child that is running ahead of the others is able to learn within a day or two what some other people will learn in a week or two, has the opportunity to go on without being held back by the others. That's what we mean by personal agency, learner autonomy. Cost effectiveness. In the final analysis, blended learning is cost effective. Every year you want to build new classrooms. Every year you must equip new classrooms. You must maintain new classrooms or old ones. But the funds are not always there. With technology and in blended learning, you need a few classrooms. You need a limited amount of facilities. But once you are able to get online and expose your students to online, then you have expanded that classroom that you do not have in brick and mortar. And ease of revision. Your materials are online. Your students can put their materials online. They can create their own spaces. They can revise at any time they want. That's the advantage of blended learning. But what about the local context, the Nigerian context, the African context, particularly the sub-Saharan context? You have problems of large classes, like the picture we saw a few slides back. We have low resources. We are relying more and more on our own in our institutions today. And we have poor technology infrastructure. If you do not have your own electricity, if you do not have your own, I don't know how many of our institutions represented here give you offices equipped with a workstation, with a telephone, with a printer, with internet access, without asking for it. Even when you do ask, how many are able to provide this? So this is what we are talking about. Poor technology infrastructure, low resources, and therefore large classes to give access to more and more young Nigerians who want to access education. If we do not find some other means, the face-to-face mortar and brick classrooms will not give that access. So this is the reason we blend, using what we have and creating more learning environments, so that we can give more to our learners. And we must not forget, in blending, for many of us in the local context, unless we make use of our comfort zone, we'll be lost. Just like many of us trying to get online on this course have been lost. I can't do this, I can't do that, and so on. That's normal. Nobody's going to blame you unless you are not making the effort. For as long as you make the effort, nobody will blame you, because it's a new environment. But once you get up to speed in this new environment, and you can combine this with the face-to-face, the comfort zone, then you are up and running. And the sky, as they say, today is no longer the limit. The sky is the starting point. Take a look at this, the pictures. It's not the tech, that is not the technology. It's all about the teach. And the teach involves the preparation, the environment you create for your learners. Bottom of the page of this slide. Who would not want to be in this kind of classroom? Who does not want to teach in this classroom? All the kids have their devices. The teacher has a device with which he can do whatever he wants to do. Simulate whatever he wants to simulate. Show the students what they cannot immediately see in their environment, but which they must learn. Everyone would like to do this. But like I said, it's also not about the technology. You can have this room filled with technologies. If you don't know how to merge them, if you don't know how to blend to achieve what you want to achieve, it leads nowhere. So it's not about the tech, it's all about the teach. It's all about the blend. These are the benefits that have been identified of ICT environment. You have the benefits, you have the tangible benefits, the efficiency, enhancement, transformation, efficient use of student time, efficient use of staff time, capacity to deal with large numbers, Enhancement, learner marks and outcomes. That can be enhanced. If you get the students to do more, they will achieve more. Learner skills and personal development will also be enhanced. Staff skills and professional development will be enhanced. That is what we are trying to do here today, to enhance our skills and professional development, to be able to do more, to be happier. What got us in general studies here and this project to where we are today was we were so frustrated with our practice. We knew our students were getting very little from what we were doing. We were putting in all our best, but we were not achieving anything. And what did we do? How can we be better teachers? We read up and found out that with the help of technology, we could do a little bit more. And we started doing that. Today, we stand to benefit. People look at us and think, oh, these guys are doing something different. Our students are doing a lot more on our courses than they do even in their core courses. Yes, many complain, that's normal. But they know that if they do the work, if they carry out the activities in class and online, they are going to get the results at the end of the semester. And that's the drive. That's a motivation. So, and that brings learner satisfaction. And what about transformation? Learner goals and progression routes are transformed today. Because in the kitchen, our students are learning. They can listen to our podcasts. They can read materials on their phones. They can do assignments to go to the classroom, to congregate. They can do these assignments and upload their assignments, and they will be graded. And most of the time, whether if there are quizzes, they will see their results almost instantaneously. Innovation in learning and teaching, we try to innovate every day, bring in new things. Because if we stay on one spot, or we think we have arrived, we haven't arrived. At such a rate that we actually must continue to update ourselves to be on top of our profession. Changes to institutional policy. We are driving the institution to have a new policy on e-learning, on ICT. And we here try to use our students as change agents to drive this new method of teaching and learning. So we come to pedagogy. Pedagogy is at the root. We've looked at the pedagogical theories, the three of them. We have identified that social constructivist theory is best, but we are not ignoring the others where they can be useful. So in this drive, we try to ensure that our teaching, our classrooms are student-centered. That is, students are the kings today. We consult them on every little thing. Yes, the university has given us a curriculum, content that Senate has approved. But how do we teach the content? How do students like to know more about on the topic? We seek their views. We consult them. They tell us what kind of materials will enable us reach our students so that they can engage with the materials we are presenting to them. We select the materials. What about the method of teaching it? More and more, we are applying the inquiry-based teaching method. Give them a problem. Let them go and solve that problem. And create a process where, as language teachers, in solving that problem, they need to collaborate with others. In collaborating, they are using the language we want to teach them. Our pedagogy is dialogue. That takes place a whole lot. We create several spaces for them to be able to do this. And it is situated as well. A lecturer in our GNS course is responsible for a particular faculty or school, for a discipline, so that examples you use with these students in science will be different from the examples that the teacher in engineering would use. It will be different from the one in management technology would use. So we try to situate this. This is what this is about. If anybody knows who uses, please identify them. Otherwise, they will not be admitted into this class. They will remain in the waiting room. We've said this long enough. It's a closed meeting that we are having. So we can't admit just anybody we cannot identify. Please, if you know OPPO A15, please tell them to identify themselves. We probably, or identify them in the chat so that they will be admitted into this meeting. Now, what are the components, not just pedagogy, of a pedagogical situation of the Hello? Can anyone hear me? Yes. I'm sorry. As expected, that is why we cannot leave our comfort zone. Technologies will fail us from time to time, but we will continue regardless. Thank you for bearing with us. I'll go back to sharing my right. Creating these learning spaces is the responsibility of the teacher. Flipping the classroom so that it becomes student-centered is the responsibility of the teacher. Selecting content that is useful in this environment is the responsibility again, sorry. If you can hear me now, I thought I was already sharing my screen until my attention was called to it. So all of these are the responsibilities of the teacher to ensure that this pedagogical approach is used in ensuring that all these things take place. My laptop is playing up again. It's not giving me the functions I need. So the student, this is student environment. The student needs motivation to be able to engage, to be able to construct knowledge and co-construct knowledge, to be able to acquire skills in practice, to meet the needs of his own peculiar situation, and to upskill his capabilities. And again, all of these are the responsibilities of the teacher. When you present a good blend, then the responsibility shifts to the student. But we must encourage, we must motivate, we must present a learning environment that the students can make use of appropriately. So the teacher has now become a facilitator, a guide, and a mentor. Facilitator, a guide, and a mentor. We love to call ourselves professors, lecturers, but our primary functions are those of a facilitator, of a guide, and a mentor. Unless we are able to do this, we will not be able to achieve all that we set out to achieve. So in doing this, course and activity designing is primary. We have the course given to us. We have a curriculum that is already developed. We need to transform that curriculum to one in which the classroom is flipped to becoming student-centered. The content of the curriculum is one that we will need to reschedule. How we do this, we are coming to it. And then, of course, our assessment must match our course design. It's no use giving work to your students, a whole lot of activities online, and then bring them to the classroom and say, come and sit down and write an exam or a test on pen and paper. That doesn't match. There must be an alignment between what you teach, how you teach, and how you assess. It's not easy, and I'm not assuming that it's easy at all. It is not. Then the learning spaces, which is the learning environment, has to be networked. How you get these devices and applications are a responsibility of the teacher and institution. It could be with the students, but it's often best if the institution arranges the devices that the students will use for their learning. Just as they create the classrooms, they must also help in creating. I'll give you an example. During COVID, the institutions, higher institutions in South Africa had to close down. South Africa is still largely shut now because of ravaging coronavirus in that country. But the institutional heads met and decided, one, they were going to meet with their governments to make devices available for the students, most of whom come from rural areas. Two, they met with network providers and agreed on a subsidized package for institutional students. So that if you are going to buy data for 1,000 naira and you are going to get 1 gigabyte, it was now possible for you to get that 1,000 naira data and receive 5 gigabytes. That was the kind of arrangement that was made for the students in South Africa so that online learning could take place. So responsibility is not that of just leave the students, let them go and find their way. It doesn't work. And we are going to fail if we took that approach. So devices, applications, and how they learn to use these applications is up to us, is up to our institutions. But the environment was enable students to share files, enable teachers and their students to share files, just as we do on our learning platform. All the materials for these modules are already on the learning platform. They will be open immediately after this class that we are having. It must enable collaboration and communication. And we need to enable our students to reflect on their learning journey. What did I do that I missed this particular one? How could I have done it better? All of this, how did I get over this problem? Let them encourage them to reflect, and that will help them as they go along. So planning your blend now. Again, depends on what you want to achieve, but the issue is choose the right ingredients from here. Blend them together and you get good results. The curriculum. We have a template here for us, which we hope we'll be able to use. On the left is the cover page of your curriculum. This. And the cover page should state qualification in view, whether it is BTech, MTech, BA, MA, or BSc, or whatever. Academic school or faculty, department, and unit. In our case, we are hoping that by the next session we'll become INTED, Institute of Technology Enhanced Learning and Digital Humanities. That is what we are transforming to. Hopefully, if we have the resources in the coming session. And the unit is communication. Course title is critical communication. This is just a template for us to work with. I'm going to run through so that we know how to prepare our own. I've chosen just one course, which is CCS 804, critical communication. Delivery mode is going to be blended, that is face-to-face and online. Course credits 4, duration in weeks, 13 weeks. Proposed start date is going to be 12/9/2021. Course lecturers are going to be, those are not here yet, Professor Janice Guka and Dr. Sam Jo. So that's the cover page. Now you are going to go, this is going to run into several pages. The one on the right, that's course details. You are going to give as much detail as will make anybody who picks it up to understand what we are doing. Course description, I've added nothing here because it's going to, I don't want this to be more than this one page that we have here. Okay, so target audience is masters. Topics, all the topics on that course will be listed. Learning outcomes. I know some of us know what learning outcomes are, or most of us do know. But let me explain. At the end of this course, what do you expect your students to be able to know? What do you expect them to be able to learn, to know and do? What skills do you expect them to be able to have acquired? These are what we call the learning outcomes. They are probably not going to be many, but you have to think about each outcome of the course that you are teaching them. If they are going to learn to be able to define and apply, say so. If they are going to be able to do this, write this, teach this, construct this, say so. That will help you at the end of the course to know whether your students have acquired everything or only a few of what you set out to do. Course status, whether it is new, addition, or review. In our case, it's new. Enrollment projection, we propose to enroll up to 15. Course prerequisites, a BTech, a PGD, or whatever. Mode of delivery is going to be either face-to-face, online, that is fully online, or blended. In our case, we are proposing to have a blended course. Support, technology, What technologies are you going to be using? In our case, we'll be using the learning management system, we'll be using the Padlet, we'll be using WhatsApp. List all the technologies that you think you are going to be using so that you will design your course and state, this is going to be done on the LMS, this is going to be done on this app or whatever. This is how we are going to use a particular technology. Resources, books, articles, videos, podcasts, links, list them all. Don't ambush your students. Personnel, of course, the lecturers have been stated. What others do you have? A technologist, a demonstrator, a teaching assistant, or research assistant, as the case may be. List them and write their names. Assessment methods, both online and pen and paper. Some will be done in the classroom, some will be done online. Course competency matrix, all the knowledge you want them to acquire, all the skills, a little bit more expansive than the learning outcomes. All the abilities to be mastered, make a list of them. That's why I said earlier on, this is going to be much more than the cover page and may run to several pages, but it should be of help to anybody who will be using that. Now, framework for implementing your blended course, which you have scheduled on slide 17. This is the planning stage. So what actions are you going to take? For instance, here, every semester we have a staff development seminar where we introduce new applications, new methods, new approaches to doing what we have been doing. So that's going to be part of the plan. How to plan the course, schedule the course curriculum like we did in slide 17. How to attack every topic, what the students will need to do, the description of how that is going to take place, what is required will be on that description. The preparation. Are you going to configure a new LMS platform? Or are you going to reformat the old one? Are you going to bring in new things? All of that comes into the preparation. The execution is the teaching through the weeks of your semester. And then the assessment, of course, both formative and summative, you explain everything here. And the evaluation of how the course has gone, whether successfully, not so successfully, or it has been a total failure. You must do an evaluation. That will help you in the coming semester when you are going to run the same course again. So, thank you very much. This is all we can take in this module. Now, I'll see if there are questions. Please raise your hand if you have questions. And unmute yourself when you have been recognized. Raise your hand. And unmute yourself. Professor Sawe, you are recognized. Please unmute yourself.
I'm clapping, not asking.
Good afternoon.
I am clapping, not raising my hand.
Sorry?
I was clapping for the presentation, not raising my hand.
Okay, not raising your hand.
But Professor
Okay, Dr. Ayodele. Professor Bodunde, Dr. Ayodele.
Good afternoon, all.
Good afternoon.
Thank you very much.
Just go ahead.
Thank you very much, sir, for the presentation. I want to ask, in a situation where you are co-teaching a course and you want to plan all this into the teaching, how possible is this, especially when the co-lecturer is not really supporting this blended teaching? How do you go about that, sir?
Well, I get your point. I get your point. In the final analysis, it's a decision that the institution must make, whether they want to go down this route or not. If you are co-teaching a course and your co-lecturer is not on board, that presents a problem. But you can present this to your HOD, who presents it to the dean, who will then present it to the university, so that pressure will be mounted on the university to adopt a policy of blended learning.
Okay.
It's much more complicated.
Yeah.
Because if the head of the institution is not in support, there is very little that an individual can do. I take Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, for instance. We had a discussion with the Vice Chancellor, who is somebody who is quite comfortable with blended learning. He came in to be Vice Chancellor from an institution where that was the order of the day. And of course, he brought that to the university. And right now, the whole of the university is embracing, with difficulties though. There will always be difficulties. We've tried to sell these in our own institution here for the past 10 years. Even when the head of the institution agreed, and we are going to find many of our colleagues who will kick against it. Some of them have genuine reasons, some don't. They are just reluctant or afraid. Some are technophobic. Good. And therefore, so there are many difficulties, and we agree, but you must start. If you are teaching a course on your own, start with that and leave the one that you are co-teaching. With time, your students, you will recruit your students. Once they go through your course and they see the benefits, they will be the ones who will put pressure. And this is what is going to happen in many institutions the way we see it. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Mama Bodunde.
Oh, wow.
Mama Bodunde, Professor Bodunde, please, you are recognized.
Okay,
So,
sir.
unmute yourself.
Wow, 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 wow.
And let's hear you. Sorry?
I say, wow, 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 wow. This is
beautiful presentation.
Thank you,
And
Prof. Thank you, Prof.
Beautiful presentation. And
Thank you, Prof.
I'm sure many of us have gained tremendously from this. And I actually like the question because I wanted to ask that question that the last speaker asked. And
right.
I wanted to ask that question. I also want to add now, since that question has been asked and the answer has been given, I just want to add something to the response. that as a
Okay.
matter of fact, if the other person has a phobia for technology, it will be difficult. But I think it is also possible for that person to start a kind of project. You know, get some of the students, try a project. It might not be as expansive as we are doing now. And when they begin to see the outcome of that, then they will show interest in it. And I'm sure they will be there. For instance, you cited our university. We have been on blended learning for a period of time, not in full swing, but it's only our department. And of course, we presented papers on it, even outside the country, and we were hailed for doing that. And where you even thought that what we had presented would not make meaning, it did make meaning, you know, at that time. So I want to encourage that person. You should just get a group of, if you don't start with WhatsApp, let's her or him start something very small, a project. And they might talk to one or two people. They might not even be quoted. Let them start it. And with time, it will gain ground. But I think most importantly, the institutions. But thank God, I think even as bad as COVID is, I think we have gained from it. Because even vice chancellors that do not want to go into it, I think the COVID has forced them to take that decision. And what happened recently now, I'm sure will make some other vice chancellor, what happened in Unilag, because either we would like it or not now, either we like it or not, we have to do something now to work seriously more virtual learning. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Prof. That was a beautiful addition. And thank Dr. Ayodele for that beautiful question as well. Next question. Who's next? Adekoju. Dr. Adekoju, you are recognized.
Yes,
please
sir.
Unmute you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you for this presentation. Although the timing and I have to adjust myself, even in a vehicle to listen to this. So which means most of the time I call technology our Holy Ghost. It's everywhere. But thank you, sir. But I want to ask question in the aspect of the economic disadvantage. There are so many of our students that are indigent that some lecturers are trying to help just for them to have this education. I don't know whether they are thinking, you know, you made mention during the presentation, South Africa, where they subsidize gigabytes for their students. I'm even aware of one of our own staff in South Africa. During the COVID, she's still in Nigeria, and because she made complaint about that, South African University had to contact MTN to subsidize our own gigabytes, to give her maybe 3,000 naira worth gigabyte every month. But the problem now is our government. What can they do? How can we approach them? What are the templates? Because we cannot be posing problem all the time. What have we thought of to give to them that this and this could be a solution? I recollect one of my friends who had to write about wet solution in energy sector, and he had to profile solution where the money can be gotten from. I also recollect that when we did a research in National Center for Technology Management, then when I was still working with them, we had to say, is it not 1% of the GDP to go for science and technology education? So, because I begin to think, if all these students who are challenged, we have maybe certain percentage of them And we have some that are well-to-do, who can afford this technology, this facility. Maybe we can begin to think about borrow and return in the university, that we will provide, university will provide, and the student will go there to go and borrow. And then after they are also, maybe when they can procure this, they will return back. We must begin to think how this blended learning can be fostered. We cannot continue to create problems. Problems are bound, but we have to find a solution to it. If there could be, people are talking about crowdfunding nowadays. If the student can come, take maybe a learning material and borrow it maybe for 1 week or during the period of time that the lectures, and then be able to return it. I think these are the kind of solution we should begin to think about in order to make this a worthwhile, and then for every other person to enjoy this technology. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the question. You've raised some of the challenges that we know exist. But if you think I have answers to these challenges, I'll be deceiving myself. I don't have the answers, but I know we must keep pressure on our institutional heads. We must keep pressure on government, and eventually we'll get there. When we wrote our proposal for this project, we were not sure we would be given, because I mean, this is not a scientific, in the Nigerian thinking, scientific thing. But it means by the time it was evaluated and they said, okay, go and write the full proposal. Oh, okay, some people are listening somewhere. And when we wrote the full proposal and they said, okay, you've won. Ah, good. Our vice chancellor was surprised that general studies could win one of the projects. Was surprised, and he said so. And we said, well, we don't know. This is a thing that we've been talking about in this institution for years. People are not listening to us. But here we are today. And here we are today holding a meeting with teachers across 5 institutions. And if we go on this way, gradually, we'll get there. In Nigeria, we are not blessed with governments that listen to the people. We are not blessed with governments that know where we should be going. We are blessed with ones that drag us back. But if we continue, look, what, as Professor Bodudi has said, what COVID has done for us is something that we probably would not have been able to do ourselves. COVID has forced everybody to start thinking that there must be another way. And now we are here. I believe we just push on, and we will get there. It's going to be gradual, but we'll get there. So thank you, Dr. Adepoju.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Animashaun, Isaac Newton.
Okay. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Good evening, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the presentation, sir.
Thank you very
Yes,
much.
sir. Please, I would like to ask a question concerning the learner capabilities, because for teacher, we need to understand our students, and at the same time, we know ourselves and we know the knowledge we want to teach. Now, you mentioned motivation, which I believe that is a very important thing that all the teachers who are the more knowledgeable others should bear in mind. Motivation is very important. And even if you are looking at our platform, I could see something whereby there's a score, grading. I'm talking about our platform on the, so I'm not asking now, by the time we start the blended learning now for the student, how do we handle this motivation? Is it only mark? Because this time around now, mark is not enough to motivate the students. Many of them, they're even looking for money to support their parents due to one thing or the other, but I think we don't need to talk about that. But in real sense, motivation, gone are those days when I was in university, if I should score A, is a good motivation that guy, I did it. But nowadays, motivation is not as powerful as before. So is it only mark that we have to use for this blended learning, or is there any means of motivation? Because that one can directly influence the capability. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you once again. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Animashan, for that very precise question. Motivation is a big thing in education. And both in education, we talk about intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. Students who are intrinsically motivated to learn mathematics, for instance, they will go on to do well with little support here and there. But if they are not interested in the course ab initio, the lecturer has a big task in trying to motivate them. But there are several ways of motivating students. Students who come to the university and who have gone through the exams and have passed, they have a level of competency to do well in any university course they are qualified for. And therefore, if the teacher can do his level or her level best to get the students to engage with the subject matter by diversifying the means by which the students learn the course. In other words, some students will learn well in an open classroom, face-to-face. Some students, when you give them assignments online and you find resources that will interest them. When we had the face-to-face component of this course, I gave the example of an engineering professor who went to somebody, a developer of games, and says, we have problems teaching this aspect of engineering to our students. They find it very tough. Is there any way we can work together to create a game? And they started working. And by the time they ended it, they came up with a game that the students loved so much. And the most difficult aspect of that engineering discipline became one of the best for the students. That is one way to motivate. You only can do your level best. You can't do everything. Students who are not even interested in learning at all, they look at you and say, oh, Dr. Animashan, he has so many degrees. He's been teaching for so long. He doesn't even have a house. He doesn't have a good car. And therefore, he's not my model of a good Nigerian. How are you going to motivate them to change that? That's going to be difficult because it is social values that have changed. There was a time in the past when students would look at their teachers and say, I want to be a teacher. How many students will want to be a teacher today? These are some of the difficulties, but we just do our level best to ensure that the students are motivated. Beyond that, we can do no more. That's all I can say. But there are ways of motivating them to love even a subject they do not like at all, a subject they hated. Most students who come to our own university here didn't think they were going to come to the university to sit down in an English class. English. what the heck? What am I doing here? And those are the frustrations we faced in those earlier years. Now, even though they don't like it, because they can get online, because they can work on their phones from their bedrooms, from their game stations, and so on, they keep doing it. And if they take 1 or 2 quizzes, assignments, and they pass, they say, hey, me, I'm passing. A former president of our students' union, who is now out there, got in touch with me, I think that was last week. He wants to improve his English. He has now found out that out there, he needs good communication to get along. He wants to improve his English. And he got it. What can he do? And I've told him what. When I sent him some links, and he got on those links, he called back. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. I'm enjoying it. Now he's enjoying what he didn't enjoy 7 years back. But that is the advantage of materials that motivate, learning methods that motivate. We can do that. Once we've done that, we've done our bit. Thank you, Dr. Animasham. And God bless you. Who's next? Professor Adebayo. Professor Adebayo, you are recognized.
Yes, sir. Yes, thank you, sir. I just want to say thank you, sir, for the very interesting and engaging lecture. And I want to add to the discussion that someone raised on 2 people who teach a course. One is pro blended learning, and the other one doesn't just give a hoot. I'll contribute by sharing an experience I had. I had my sabbatical year in UI in 2014, 2015. And I taught several courses, including a course in reading. And the course is titled Developmental Reading. And what I decided to do, because I wanted to sell this idea of blended learning even in UI. And I was amazed because UI had, and still has, I think, an LMS, and they make use of 2.6 technologies, but you won't believe that the only people who make use of it are people in distance learning. The thing was lying there fallow. So I decided, to use it for my developmental reading course. I just taught a component of the course using that. And to my amazement, the students fell in love with it. Even the head of the department and a couple of staff, really loved it. And, I came away from the course thinking that, universities can collaborate, doing this kind of thing, teaching, and I made a proposal to the fellow who took over the course from me. And I said, look here, if you like, I can co-teach this course with you, even from FUTA. I'll do the blended learning stuff, you meet the kids, but he didn't follow through. But that's not to discourage anyone. I just want to say that what we can do is woo those who are not interested. People will not accept for several reasons, because the attitude will be, English teacher, what's your business with ICT, for heaven's sake? But we are the ones who must forge ahead and bring about a change. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Professor Adebayo, for that contribution. So, Dr. Animasham. No, Dr. Animasham can learn from what Professor Adebayo has said. Now, Professor DVC, Professor Akeredolu. Please unmute yourself. Yeah.
I've done that. Thank you very much, Prof, for the presentation. And I would like to thank all those who have made their contributions too. What I would like to share is our own experience.
Great.
We've had to go, we've had to go all out, full blown, 100 level and 200 level virtual learning and teaching. At the initial stage, it wasn't easy. I was also thinking, how would we get the students to get data? They didn't even have money to give to the lecturers. But thanks to people like Professor Bodunde, I said, DVC, you just have to do something. And we squeeze the money to provide little our participating want to be. But I start at that time, maybe we just be starting this session. And right now we're preparing for the exam for the second semester. And we, in addition, let me add that we were wondering how we're going to do our post-UTME. At a point, we wanted to say, no need for post-UTME, we're just going to use the JAM score. Then we saw other institutions were doing their post-UTME virtually. And we just said, we too can do it, and we did. It was interesting to watch the videos of the students doing the exams, because a lot of them didn't take it seriously. They thought we're not recording them, and we did. I'm sure when we try it for the this set that just did their JAM, we're going to get a better presentation than we did the first time we tried it. When the students started coming with their problems, saying, oh, we didn't cheat and we were marked down, and we played the video to them, they were really surprised that we took it seriously and we were watching them, you know. So, in fact, you will hear someone you know, things like that. But with time, the student will get used to the fact that they also have to take it seriously. And one thing I've learned from students is that, you see, this technology is something they want to use. It's something they are even far more interested in than we are. I've encountered students that we say to you, they don't have credit on their phones. They don't even have phones, but they have their tablets, and they try to look for free Wi-Fi. So that they can attend to their classes. It's not been easy. One would like to say, I must point that out, both for the teachers and the students. One thing we are trying from our end to do with the teachers is to encourage them to try and engage the students more. Because what I observe is that our lecturers are not engaging the students enough. But that is not their fault, really, because we did not have an extensive training like this. But with time, we've organized a second virtual learning lessons for our teachers. And I hope that once we finish the second semester, we'll be able to do something again so as to keep the fire burning. There's no doubt that we are not going back. At least one thing I keep saying to all of them, all our own GNS classes would be taught virtually. We're not going, well, we can also do the blended learning as we're doing now, but we're not going back to the full face-to-face, not anymore, we're not. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you, Prof. Thank you, Prof. Who's next? Okay. All the other questions in the chat we'll take on because our time will soon be up. We had interruption today, but it wasn't as much as last week. But let me also make this announcement. The materials are now open. The forum last week, I still haven't seen much happening on the forum. Are there nothing to discuss? Are there no questions? Are there no views you want to express about this? Please go to the forum. The forum for this week would also be open. The questions have already been posted. And the materials and activities for this week are there. Let me remind us. You don't make 80% participation, you don't get a certificate at the end of this course. But all the activities remain there. If you haven't done them, they are still available. Just go there, do the activities, ramp up the marks, and by the time we finish, 80%, all those who have made 80% will get their certificate. And I can tell you, it's going to be a certificate. I pray the certificate will bear the institute's logo, not GNS, and it will bear the projects that we have. So thank you. I'm encouraged, seriously encouraged by the participation, by your contributions during these last 1.5 hours or so. So let's keep it up. Next week is going to be a new module, but let's do the activities for this module. Let's do the activities from last week, and then we'll continue to ramp it up and go on like that. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time, your contributions. We'll meet again online next week. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir. Bye-bye, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
The links will be there. The links, you get the links on the platform. It's going to be on YouTube.
Well done, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
That was a very nice presentation, Prof. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Infinite Hot 8, go and change the name. Oh. Go and change the name. Infinite Hot 8.
I'll do that right away.
It will be too hot to handle.
Please, maybe I'm not the only one using Infinite Hot 8 because Canada has changed already.
That's another one.
Infinite Hot
8. I've changed mine already.
I've changed mine too.
You have not changed it.
Ma?
You can see.
Canada have changed. You have seen it. Canada
I've changed my Gigi Omula already.
Canada, yes. Canada, yes. We've seen
Which
that.
university are you from?
So that means another person is using Infinite Hot 8. Apart from me.
Adebisi, where are you from?
Adebisi, unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself and answer the question. It's open now.
Yeah. Saying thank you.
We can hear you. Your
sister.
We can't hear you. What
your
of what of
Mama Bodude?
I'm looking for group members. Me. Infinite Hot 8, which university are you from?
No. Go and download the PDF on the platform. Go and download the PDF on the platform.
Yes, but my name was not even added to the contact list. So
no,
they can't even.
It has been added.
Contact list.
Which
it's
one
only
is
in the party. You know, there are two lists, one contact list, one know yourself. So the one, my details have not been there.
The one for phone number.
Yes.
Okay. They will take note of that.
Okay.
They will check it and they will add it.
Okay.
It will be added. It will be added.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Prof, some of us that missed the last class.
The recording is online. The recording
we couldn't get
on the platform. The link is on the platform. It will take you to YouTube. This one would also
Which
be
platform?
downloaded and the link will be on the platform and it will lead you to YouTube where you can access it. Okay? It will be there. Yeah, Oludele Ejada.
Olori Ebi Ekusha, thanks. It was a
Eh?
This is not fish time.
Let's blend this
Was a really
fish. Let's blend the fish. Let's blend the fish.
No. Oh, nice. So, all right, everybody. Thank you. See you. By God's grace.
Yes. Yeah. End the meeting for everybody.